Daily Broadside to 873. I've been a little upset recently. I've been trying to understand why my dog hates me, and what I mean by that is, every time I FaceTime my dog, it's like I don't exist. She hears my voice, but it's like doesn't even recognize. She'll perk up when she hears my voice, but then she just completely just isn't bothered by it, and I'm like. And, the person's holding the phone right at her face, and I'm like, hey, dummy, it's me, that kind of. And it doesn't hurt my feelings. It makes me mad. I'm like, why is the dog ignoring me? Because if I show up in a room, the dog is all over me, What's the whatever? So today I was thinking on the way home, I was like, there's got to be a technological reason why the dog can't, because I grew up, everybody said, well, dogs can't see color on the TV. Dogs don't see color. They see everything in black and white. I don't know how we know that unless we put dog eyes into human eyes, and everybody's like, it's back in the Leave It to Beaver days, or, what was that movie? Small Town, Small Crush, Small something with the Spider-Man guy and Claire Danes, maybe? Small Village, Smallish, Smallville. No, that's a Superman thing. The thing where they like go back in time and they're like transported into like a Leave It to Beaver. What is it? Damn. It doesn't matter. That's not what we're talking about. Moving on. Somebody will put it in the comments. But so I was, so I grew up thinking that. I was thinking today, I was like, well, maybe they see, a phone is a little TV. So maybe they just don't see that TV like we do. So I Google it, and it said, and I typed in something stupid like, why doesn't my dog care about me on FaceTime or something like that? And of course it's like, here's why, and it starts listening. So the first part is, the flicker rate, which I'm not completely understanding, but the flicker rate that their eyes perceive is completely different than ours. And so the way I understood it is they're seeing just a bunch of flashes because of the way their eyes perceive, relative motion and whatnot, as opposed to ours who just see, what we see. And then I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. And then they were like, the size of the phone, little tiny thing, that's too hard for them to see, like we can see, and, see a face, and it's this big, And the other thing was something else that was relatively good is, and I don't remember what it was. But then he got to the fourth thing, and it said lack of context. And I'm like, oh, this will be good. And it said lack of context. It said dogs may not understand the concept of a video. And I'm like, may not understand the concept of it. They don't have any clue what a video is. I mean, 20 years ago, we couldn't have even fathomed the fact that I can just pick up my phone and video like the Jetson, style video to somebody. I can call Rosie and tell her to have dinner on the table because I'm on my way. Wasn't Rosie his wife, Elroy? It's Rosie's. Yeah, she's the maid, right? Meet George Jetson, his wife, Judy. Daughter, Judy, his wife, Claire, Elroy Claire. I don't know what the bitch's name was, but anyway, Rosie was the one I could just fake. I'm getting off track. So my point is, the dog doesn't understand video, okay? And it doesn't understand the concept of a video, which I kind of understood before that happened. I don't understand why it is that every oyster bar in existence has to make, double entendres and references and innuendos to things that people do behind closed doors on all their shirts, lick it, suck it, slam it, shuck yeah, and everything's like a play on it's just kind of dumb, and I get it. I understand that some forms of an oyster, can mimic a certain appendage of a female. It's not really it could be an appendage, but most of the time it's not really considered an appendage. I mean, it's fine if it is an appendage, if it protrudes, a little bit more than others. But my point is, I understand where the whole oyster thing comes from. But, if there was an eggplant restaurant, hey, come to the Eggplant Emporium, double E's, come on. All our waitresses have double E's ever. They serve you eggplant. I don't think that they would make, like, penis jokes about all their, their slogans and all their T-shirts be like, come get, I don't even want to say what I want to say, but, I find it odd that everything has to be, this double entendre. And while we're talking about this particular topic, adult activities. I was at lunch the other day with a couple of my friends and my mom, right? And we're all having a lunch at a Mediterranean place. And the topic of walking in on your parents comes up. And it occurred to me from the 4 people in attendance and some of the outlying stories that they told of other people they know, that pretty much everybody, this happens to everybody, you know. It happened to me when my oldest was probably like 9 or 10. And I got to say, he handled it like a champ. I learned 2 things that day. That boy handled it like a champ. He played it off. It's never been addressed. I mean, I'll address, if he wants to bring it up today, I'll talk about it. I'm just saying he acted like, you know, it just never happened, which is probably what he has to do to process, you know, the what he saw. And that's okay. You know, but the second thing I learned is, even if you think you can just like knock one out real quick in the living room and one ear will be paying attention to the 2 kids upstairs that might come running down the stairs. Actually, I learned 3 things. This is the second one. You eventually get zoned in to where you tune out. Like, there's auditory exclusion, and the stairs, people coming down the stairs, it just, you know, your blinders are on, and eventually you're not paying attention to those stairs. And that's what happened. I heard the last step, and I look over and I'm like, here we are. The third thing I learned is, what was the third thing I learned? Oh, I know what it was. The third thing I learned is, even if you do hear it coming down the stairs, do you know how quick a 9, 10-year-old can descend to like, 14, 15 stairs? Quicker than you can, you know, uncork and pull things up. You know, that's all I'm saying. So those are 3 rules that I learned. At any rate, but then my mom pipes in. She's like, yeah, I walked in on my parents. And she says it really, really like just forlorn, you know, just, I did it too. I was like, and so I'm like, oh, I have to make this awkward. I'm like, so how old were you? She was like, I was like 9, 10, 11, somewhere in there. It's always like the 9 to 11 year range that you walk in on your parents. I don't know what that's all about, but, you know, and then she tells a story about when I did it to them, and I don't remember doing that. She was like, they were having the carpet put in, so all the doors were off the house. And apparently I got up in the middle of the night and came in there to, you know, say something. I was going to take a piss or something, and they just kind of froze. I never knew. But then she's like, yeah, she's like, I did it. I walked in on my parents too one time, and I say, how old were you? And she tells me, and I was like, and so I have to make it now doubly awkward. And so I was like, what position were they in there, Mom? You know, and she says, he was on top. Just like that. And I laughed, and the other 2 people in attendance laughed, and we all laughed. She didn't laugh. I think she said she's still a little scarred by it, you know. Because, you know, when you got, you know, things swinging around, and I imagine for a girl, it's got to be a little rougher there. But at any rate, I think that's enough talking for today. We've probably covered enough topics. But yeah, you're not going to hear them coming down the stairs. No matter how much you focus, you'll eventually lose focus. They come down those stairs quicker than you think. And I can't remember what was the third thing? You never have enough time? I don't remember. Well, at any rate, have a good one, Giddy. It's hot as hell out here.